Alright, got a fresh can of fucking Mountain Dew. I got voltage today. And I'm ready to make a fucking video. First things first, it's like a few days, I think, into Trump being officially president, and I gotta say, him being president is exactly what secularists like myself try to fucking fight against. I'm not gonna talk about it any more than that, because, once again, this is not a fucking politics channel. I will not be talking about Trump's election. I will not be talking about his stupid ass character, other than calling it stupid ass. But we got Answers in Genesis video here. And originally I saw this title, and I saw the dude from, I think it was the last video. I saw his face, and I was looking in the description to find what his name is. Apparently it's Calvin Smith. I guess he's like the face of Answers in Genesis's Canadian branch. But I also found this line, and I'm ready for it to be a bunch of outdated nonsense. I thought this was their strongest objection, Answers in Genesis' strongest objection to the evolutionary timeline, but it looks like they're going to most likely misquote a dude from, like, I don't know, when was, oh, whoops, that's Pokemon stuff, whoops, oh man, all of these searches. Yeah, I really gotta separate my searches on my personal account. Oh man. Charles Darwin birth year. 1809. This dude was born over 2 centuries ago. So they're probably going to misquote a dude who was born over 2 centuries ago, and everything that they do represent well is about to be a bunch of outdated shit, because we've learned double as much as we did in the past 50 years. Like, we know so incredibly much more than we did in 1850. So this is about to be really annoying to deal with, but I already made my bed. I'm gonna lie in it.
Incredible differences in size and morphology. How Gingrich could have made his claim that Pachycetus was a perfect intermediate, a missing link between land mammals and whales, when it's current
I'm gonna skip this.
between a variety of. For over 100 years now, a variety of fossil skulls and bones described as missing links between various creatures have been displayed in museums.
Oh god. I fucking hate the term missing link, because creationists always like to use that word, and I feel like no actual, like, paleontologist or biologist actually uses the term missing link. It's a very publicized term.
And featured in textbooks in support of the story of evolution. And why are they referred to as missing links? Well, because evolutionists don't seem to find enough fossils to fill all of the spaces in between the various kinds of creatures we know.
We can fill the spaces. We have filled the spaces. What he is saying here is we haven't definitively said where one species turns into another, because that's not how evolution works. That's just not how evolution works. The boxes, the names that we assign these things are boxes we created. Technically, I am literally the same creature as everything on the planet. Technically. Because the boxes that we make are arbitrary. I have the same universal common ancestor as a fucking fish. You don't have to like it, but it is the truth. There are a set of creatures called universal common ancestors. Now, these universal common ancestors are single-celled organisms because, you know, it's pretty, like, obviously the branches that went out were very early, and the last universal common ancestor is only the last universal common ancestor because literally all other evolutionary paths completely died out. And so from the last universal common ancestor all the way back to the first universal common ancestor is one solitary line, because literally all other paths died out. But nevertheless, we can tell because of genetics that these universal common ancestors did exist at one point. We know this as fact because, not because of fossil evidence, because creationists love to nitpick at fossil evidence and how it's never a complete picture, which it never will be because of how rare fossils are. But I want to make clear that we know this because of several facets of science. We know that evolution is real because of multitudes of sources, all in, like, vastly different areas of science. Because science backs up science. You cannot take away one field of science without having to take away all of the other fields of science, because they're interwoven. All of the evidence backs up all of the other evidence. That's how science works. You can't just say evolution is wrong without saying our entire understanding of biology is wrong. And without our entire understanding of biology, like, we wouldn't have modern medicine. And without our modern understanding of biology, we wouldn't have modern agriculture. None of us would be alive.
Know about, i.e., they're missing. Charles Darwin himself considered the weakest link in his entire naturalistic hypothesis.
Before he says this, I want everyone here to acknowledge the fact that Charles Darwin was wrong about a great many things. Everybody is wrong about something, especially people who don't have all of the evidence. In the 1800s, we did not have most all of the evidence that we have today. That's why the further back you go in time, the more you'll hear stories of people who revolutionized science because they challenged commonly held beliefs. The reason for that is because the commonly held beliefs were built on false grounds, is the words that I'm going to use for this. If you start with faulty numbers, you are going to come to a faulty conclusion. And if you start with false numbers, in also add in a false equation on top of that, you're almost certainly going to end up with wildly different conclusions. And that right there is honestly how a lot of things worked. Like, before the 21st century. We've come a long way in just 24 years. Actually, 25, actually, now. But yeah. God, this is really irritating. Once again, Darwin is not our Jesus. We are not saying he was right about everything. In fact, he was wrong about a few things, even in his field of expertise.
To be the lack of fossil evidence for these missing intermediate links, a problem which has never been overcome. Darwin asked a question, then made an admission and a statement, all in one quote, that perfectly sums up the problem.
Oh boy, can't wait for this to be horribly misquoted or outdated.
Why then is not every geological formation and every stratum full of such intermediate links? Geology assuredly does not reveal any such finely graduated organic chain, and this, perhaps, is the most obvious and serious objection which can be urged against the theory.
Okay, now I want you all to understand that in Darwin's book, On the Origin of Species, I think that's what it's called, he actively thought up what people's responses would be and immediately followed those responses up with an immediate counter. So let's look up this quote in what comes directly after it. Okay, let me split screen this real quick, because I can't be bothered to, it's my Ichigo wallpaper. Yes, I'm a massive nerd. Let's see. Quotes. Why then it's not every geological formation and every stratum full of such intermediate links. This should be enough to get the quote. Charles Darwin. Alright, let's put this back in here. Alright. Direct. Origin of major. I'm not gonna use this. Alright, there we go. Such intermediate links. Geology assuredly does not reveal any such finely graduated organic chain, and this, perhaps, is the most obvious and serious objection which can be urged... Oh, fuck off. Which can be urged against the theory. The explanation lies, as I believe, in the extreme imperfection of the geological record. And it doesn't go on. Let me see more. Let me read the rest of it. Oh, fuck my life. This is annoying. Give me a second. this is what Darwin actually said, but just in proportion, as this process of extermination has acted on an enormous scale, so must the number of intermediate varieties, which have formerly existed on the Earth, be truly enormous. Why then is not every geological formation and every stratum full of such intermediate links? Geology assuredly does not reveal any such finely graduated organic chain, and this, perhaps, is the most obvious and gravest objection which can be urged against my theory. The explanation lies, as I believe, in the extreme imperfection of the extreme imperfection of the geological record. This guy posted it like a whole. You know what? I'm gonna post this link in the description of my video, because this looks really extensive. Yeah, I'm gonna post this in the description of my video if you want to go check it out. I'll just say that this is a quote that is outdated and misrepresented, because Darwin fucking explains, as far as I know, in like the next paragraph, like the exact, like the reason why this is the case. And the reason is they didn't have any of that at that time. We do now. Like, dude, like that Quora post said, they were just starting to actually study fossils in that time. We've had nearly 200 years to study them, to dig them up and study them. Obviously, he didn't have all the evidence for his stuff that time. He was pioneering the subject. Like, dude, all I ever see are horribly outdated or horribly misrepresented quotes from fucking creationists when they try to quote an actual scientist.
Theory.
Or any expert on any matter. Oh, whoops, did I just...
50 years later, they only have a few handfuls of highly disputed, even amongst their own evolutionary community, transitional forms to point to.
We have so many transitional forms, it's fucking ridiculous. I don't think you understand just how many... Let me just, real quick. How many complete fossils of transitional fossils are there? There's no definitive counts. Alright. We definitely have. I'm not gonna use Reddit as a fucking, I wasn't logged into anything personal on this, right? That's really annoying. There's nothing in here that identifies me, right? I don't think there is. Wikipedia. Hell yeah. No matter what anybody says, Wikipedia is a valid source for information. Ask literally anyone who's tried to do a prank on Wikipedia, and they'll tell you that it got removed, like, within minutes of them changing it, so. Yada 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 yada. Where's the number? Hominid evolutionary record. It's most commonly referred. However, scientists, do not use the term, as it refers to a pre-evolutionary view of nature. What did I say? What did I say about the word, about the term missing link? Right there. Alright, I don't have the patience to read through all of this, but to be clear, transitional fossils have been found. In fact, there have been many transitional fossils in the human evolutionary path as well. So, don't let any of these fuckwits tell you that there are no transitional fossils, because that's straight up untrue. It's not. It's not at all true.
So, what might then be put out there front and center as solid evidence of a transitional fossil
Genetics.
candidate these days? Well, many evolutionists will claim.
Did he say fossil? He said evidence, so I just went, alright, genetics.
So, what might then be put out there front and center as solid evidence of a transitional fossil candidate these days? Well, many evolutionists will claim it's been indisputably proven that whales evolved from land animals. And this whole idea.
Showing a fucking puppy here is just. It is such incredibly peak misleading. Like, it is the peak of fucking misleading. Because they didn't evolve from puppies, you fuckwit. That's not how that works. They evolved from land animals. Land animals that no longer exist in this current, day. In this current time.
It came originally from a specimen dubbed Pachycetus, meaning whale of Pakistan.
Trying to catch your breath? Because I see you hopping between softwares all day instead of using Connect Team, the all-in-one platform.
Now, if a teacher randomly threw the name Pachycetus at a student who didn't know about it and asked them to do a report on what it is, the average high schooler would likely hop online and look up some of the top results to prepare their work. However, what they would find wouldn't just be the facts, so to speak. It would be a mixture of facts combined with interpretations of those facts based on evolutionary presuppositions.
No. They would be facts and interpretations of facts from experts on the subject. Experts on the subject, not presuppositions. Experts on the subject. You can't just call any expert's opinion on a matter presuppositions because you want to mislead your audience. They are interpretations of the facts by experts on the subject. People get doctorates for these things. People get doctorates. And people don't want to get doctorates just for morons on the internet to say, presuppositions. Do you understand how incredibly insulting that is to literally every scientist? Fuck, man. Fuck.
all wrapped in some heavy storytelling. And
Fucking heavy storytelling. Dude. I really hope he uses another fucking quote, because I really want to bury him in evidence.
what do I mean by that? Well, let me read you a description from the Britannica website describing
He does use another quote. He does. Oh, hell yeah.
this creature. And I'm going to modify it by omitting some comments first time around.
Oh no, he's admitting. He's admitting to... Oh, this can't possibly go any better, can it?
And then I'll insert them back in the second time to demonstrate the obvious storytelling going on here despite the facts that have been found. Pachycetus, extinct genus of early mammals known from fossils, discovered in 48.5
Okay, let me
million-year-old river.
let me actually... Pachycetus, extinct genus of early mammals known from fossils, discovered in 48.5 million-year-old river delta deposits in present-day Pakistan. Okay. Alright. I'm just, like, taking in and consolidating that. Alright.
River delta deposits.
Discovered with functional legs, in addition, many other features of terrestrial mammals, including an auditory system for hearing in air, a dentition not unlike that of closest blank relatives,
In present-day Pakistan.
such as mesonychids and functional feet
Pachycetus was discovered with
capable of locomotion on land. So pretty much this is saying early ancestor of mammals was found in a river delta in Pakistan, and it had pretty much all the hallmarks of a land-dwelling mammal.
Functional leg. Feet. 45 kilos.
The body mass, roughly the size of a wolf or a dog. Dentition of the animal indicates that it had a diet primarily of fish. Alright. However, its skeleton and skull suggest that it spent a considerable amount of time on land.
Kilograms, roughly the size of a wolf or large dog. However, it's... Okay, so along with the artist's rendition provided alongside the description I gave, the student would get a pretty clear understanding of what sort of creature this was. Namely, a land-dwelling, four-legged mammal roughly the size of a wolf that's depicted looking somewhat between a dog and a giant rat. Nowhere in the description
Somewhere between a dog and a giant rat. I'm sorry, like that may be true, but I'm gonna be honest. That is such a wide array of features that could possibly be shown. It's really like... It's like if you picked a point between 1 and 50 trillion. You know?
would the idea of a whale pop into your mind based on the facts presented. Now, this time, I'm going to present the entire entry verbatim. And I want you to notice all the nuances in phrasing and the way they try to convince you based on assumptions that we'll explore later. To try to sound like this is evidence of a creature transitioning.
Okay, get on to the actual
Extinct genus of early cetacean mammals known from fossils, discovered in 48.5 million-year-old.
Cetacean mammals. What does cetacean mean? Cetacean. That's an X. Cetacean meaning Marine mammal. Okay, that's really, it's really dumb that they, blacked that out as if it was an assumption, like, because it's not. It's just not. It's based on evidence that is not shown here, definitely. But, like, it wouldn't be widely accepted science if there wasn't fucking evidence for it.
River delta deposits in present-day Pakistan. Pakicetus is one of the earliest whales and the first cetacean discovered with functional legs.
At Harbor Freight, we do business differently from the other guys. We design.
Okay.
In addition,
I want you to really, because that was a big omission that they just fucking glanced over, and I want you to really understand it. Pakicetus is one of the earliest whales. I don't like that they use the word whales. They should have said whale ancestor. Pakicetus is one of the earliest whale ancestors and the first cetacean discovered with functional legs. I want you to really take in that word first. The first cetacean discovered with functional legs. And I'm not that jazzed about the use of the word cetacean referring to an obviously land-dwelling animal. I don't like the wording of this. I definitely don't like the wording of this, but I do admit it is a little bit misleading. But I want you to understand that, like, I want you to understand that the ideas that these wordings are based on a foundation of purely facts. But let's go back to the word first here. It says it's the first one that was discovered. The first one that was discovered. That means we discovered more. And we can actively identify the actual, like, line of this thing becoming, or sorry, I want to clarify that. We can actively see the evolutionary line through all of the other ones that we've discovered of these sort of creatures slowly adapting to the water and over many generations becoming more and more like whales.
It retained many other features of terrestrial mammals, including an auditory system that was better for hearing in air than in water.
Yeah, because it was a land-dwelling animal. It's not a whale, it's an ancestor of whales. Hasn't gotten to living fully in the ocean yet. There's no reason for it to have an auditory system made for in the water rather than in air.
Dentition not unlike that of its closest terrestrial relatives, such as the mesonychids, and functional feet capable of locomotion on land. The body mass of Pakicetus was estimated.
This part wasn't even, nothing was removed from there anyway, so I'm just gonna skip it.
Now, if this whole subject is new to you, you might be thinking, where on earth would they get the idea that this hairy four-legged...
From evidence. Evidence. That's how you get that idea. Evidence and conclusions from experts on the fucking subject. Oh my god. Oh man, this is really fucking irritating. This is why I had such a big stretch of not doing this, and specifically not doing it reacting to fucking Answers in Genesis.
Legged land wolf rat creature was some kind of a whale with legs. Why?
It wasn't some kind of whale with legs. It was an ancestor of whales that was a land-dwelling creature, so it had legs.
Why are they saying it's an early whale if it walked around on 4 legs? They say it likely ate fish, but so do bears, and they aren't land whales. Surely there must be...
But if a bear slowly started to eat more fish and less things on land and decided it was just going to live its whole life there and started actually evolving traits to better and better eat fish rather than like protect itself on land, so like shorter claws, shorter and shorter claws, bigger and bigger mouth. Eventually it starts maybe just laying down in a fucking river and just opening its mouth, and then it starts doing that, and that becomes more beneficial, and the fish just come right in. It may start to move around less. There's no need for legs at that point because now you can just crawl around in the river. Then, you start going more and more down that route. Don't really need to defend yourself anymore, so the claws are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So now imagine a bear that has shorter arms, no claws, and has maybe no legs. Maybe it's started to atrophy. Maybe starting to have the legs start to fuse together. And does that sound like the characteristics of a whale? Short arms, short, like, round arms. They're flippers. Fucking big-ass mouth. Like, the bear's legs are starting to fuse together, almost like a tail fin. Like, it's not out of the question that modern-day bears could end up going in a similar evolutionary route.
Something more to it than the facts.
But you would call the bear an ancestor of this new animal, not this new animal. It's not how that works.
They're presenting here. Well, let's go through the history of this discovery and explore it in more detail. In 1983, Dr. Phil Gingrich, a whale paleontologist from the University of Michigan, had...
I'm not a big fan of how crotchety this frame is. I don't know, I'm getting real big, creepy grandpa vibes off of the way this frame is moving. It's so... Oh, there's my alarm. It's so fucking weird. Why do they have the frame moving? It's so weird. What the fuck?
Had an article published in Science magazine purporting a monumental evolutionary discovery where he claimed his find, Pachycetus, is the oldest and most primitive whale yet discovered. It is an important transitional form, linking Paleocene carnivorous land mammals and later, more advanced marine whales.
So, I want to remind you guys that was the first one found. Or, well, maybe not the first one found, but the first transitional form we've found between carnivorous land mammals and whales. Let me look up Dr. Phil Gingrich. Dr. Phil Gingrich. Oh, I don't... Gingrich. Is that it? Yeah, here we go. And then let's find I'm probably butchering the spelling. Pachycetus. Pachycetus. Find. Actually, better yet, what does it say? I don't think it says the name of the, Pachycetus. I know about Pachycetus. First fossil find date. Okay, 1983. So this was 40 years ago. 40 years ago, this one was found. You didn't think that we'd find more of these transitional fossils in that time? To make this evolutionary line a little bit more concrete?
Seen carnivorous land mammals and later more advanced marine whales. Supposedly based on the fossil evidence he'd found, the magazine cover featured a rather goofy-looking drawing depicting a half-land, half-sea creature diving into the water to hunt fish. And yet, how much
Let's be honest. That looks a lot like a really big otter with a large mouth. Didn't really look that goofy either. Really odd word choice.
physical evidence had he collected that would inspire such a depiction? Well, the only bits of bone he'd then collected were a few pieces of the skull. He had absolutely no fossil evidence.
You can figure out a lot just based on the skull. Maybe not all of the traits of that, but, you know, you can figure out I don't understand why it's so hard for creationists to understand that experts can do a lot with a little. They don't need to have everything spelled out for them in a book. They understand how, connections of bones work. So they can figure out whether a fucking animal stood upright just based on, a couple of knee joints. It definitely is hard to figure out, but it's not impossible. And these people, they're experts. They know their shit.
Evidence below the head. Now, think about this. If the drawing was supposedly based on the facts he'd had at the time, how could he possibly know what the diet of the creature supposedly was? Or how to get an artist, if you could...
Oh my god. Oh man. I really want to go Google all of the hallmarks of how you can tell what a creature's diet is based on the skull, but I'm not going to do that. Because that's going to be a really long rabbit hole. And this video is already 43 minutes long.
Call them that. To draw the entire creature, complete with front legs and flipper-like feet. And yet, despite not having close to a complete skeleton of the creature, a full 11 years later, Gingrich was still so taken with his own imagination that he was still declaring, in time and in its morphology, Pachycetus is perfectly in...
Excuse me, give me a second. How many Pachycetus fossils were found between 1981 and 2001. Oh, apparently that is not the right spelling. Whoops. Huh. 20 years later, aka 2 years after they found a complete fossil of it. Let me just look up complete Pachycetus fossil. Oh, and would you look at that? He was really fucking close. This looks like it's based on the fossil as well. All of the proportions and the direction of the limbs
Intermediate
compared
to
to
a
that
complete
picture,
skeleton of the creature. And yet, entire at the time. How could he possibly know what the evidence of few depiction? Well, the only bits of bone he diving into the water to hunt.
Okay, yeah. This may not look a lot like this, but I want you to look at the skull. I want you to look at the skull. I want you to look at the head of this thing. And I want you to remember that all of the early depictions of dinosaurs basically looked like shrink-wrapped skin around the bones. I want you to understand that we have much better renditions of what dinosaurs actually would have looked like nowadays. Because, and get this, the field of science has evolved in the past 40 fucking years. Because we've tempered it. That's a good word for it. We've tempered it throughout all the time that, like, we've gotten all this evidence. We've tempered our understandings. We've tempered our, I don't want to use rendition again. We've tempered our examples of how things would have looked. I want you to understand that this may not look a lot like this, or like this, but I want you to understand that the bones of the complete this, even though the position and the rest of the body are not what this looks like, but I want you to understand that the bones of this would not have looked vastly different to the bones of this. And he only had a skull to go off of. And he was able to figure out what the bones would have looked like to make his rendition of what the actual animal would have looked like. Don't get me wrong, the actual animal doesn't look like what it actually would have looked like. But for what he had at that time, it's a hell of a lot better than, like, this guy's lies. Anyways, let's continue the video. Honestly, I might just end the video here. No, let's keep going.
Fish. And yet, how much physical evidence had he collected that would inspire such a depiction? Well, the only bits of this are entrails. Now, remember, there was nothing in the bits of skull he'd found that would definitively indicate this creature operated in water. No blowhole or nostril on the top of it. No.
I'm sorry, but that's a really fucking low bar. I'm sorry, Okay, does he go on?
Nothing indicating it had ears that were designed for use in aquatic environments, etc. And yet he spoke so confidently about his discovery.
Oh my fucking god. You can tell how much of a fucking, not even a novice, it's too rude to novices to call this guy a novice in the subject. It's super clear he doesn't know anything about the subject of paleontology. Because if he knew even a high school level of paleontology, he'd understand that there are more fucking indications of literally, like, how something, like, would be aquatic than just ears and blowholes. You realize that fish don't have blowholes, right? Did he specify aquatic mammals?
Use in aquatic environments, etc. On top of it, nothing indicating it had ears that were designed for use in aquatic environments. Definitively indicate this creature operated in water. No blowhole or nostril on the top of it. Nothing indicating it had ears that were designed for use in aquatic environments, etc. And yet he spoke so confidently about...
Yeah, and you're speaking so confidently as if a blowhole in the top of its head is a defining feature for literally all aquatic animals. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Oh my god. Do fish even have ears? Do fish have ear holes? Yeah, so his literal two definitions of what makes something an aquatic animal, fish don't even apply to either of them. Do these guys do literally any research on the subjects that they claim are wrong? Like, actually go out and learn this shit before you say it's wrong, dude. Oh my god. His whole basis for it must be wrong is the Bible is in contention with it. Therefore it must be wrong. Like, dude. Actually do some fucking research on the subject. Oh my god. Like, a particularly invested high school student could debunk this shit. Fucking hell.
About his discovery and had all of this published in prestigious, peer-reviewed scientific journals.
Yeah, it was peer-reviewed. Is your shit peer-reviewed? Is the Bible peer-reviewed? Oh wait, the Bible has been peer-reviewed by many scientists, and they know it's wrong.
However, by 2001, nearly 20 years after his initial announcement in Science magazine, almost the whole skeleton was finally uncovered. And what did it show?
Hi, I'm JT, and I made Result Hunter, the search engine for conservatives. Let me just tell you what it does. First of all,
well,
Wait a second. How long after?
Years after his initial announcement. However, by 2001, nearly 20 years after his initial announcement in Science magazine, almost the whole skeleton was finally uncovered. And what did it show? Well, a technical paper in Nature unequivocally declared that the bones demonstrated Pachycetus was a land animal and no more amphibious than a tapir, which is a pig-like creature. The Encyclopedia of New Zealand website depicted the creature with muscle and skin in the following way, which is fairly similar to most depictions shown today. Now, let's take a look at a whale for a moment and...
But it wasn't a whale, you dumb fucker! Oh my god. It's not a whale. It's an ancestor of whales. Pulling up a picture of a fucking humpback whale is gonna do nothing for anything here. Oh my god, these people, they only hear what they want to hear, and then they use it as evidence for why people are wrong, and it's so fucking stupid.
Compare these two creatures. considering the incredible differences in size and morphology, how Gingrich could have made his claim that Pachycetus was a perfect intermediate, a missing link between land mammals and whales, when its current description is that of a wolf-like animal about 1 to 2 meters.
And yet, all of his claims have been backed up. Maybe not about the original look of what, like, the creature looked like, but it being an intermediary of whales has been backed up by peer review.
Long is frankly astonishing and a testimony to the amount of storytelling commonly involved in the so-called science of evolution. And had the complete skeleton been uncovered and shown to the scientific community and the general public from the outset, claims of what are now commonly referred to as terrestrial cetaceans, literally land whales, would almost surely have been metaphorically laughed out of town.
Okay. I really don't like how creationists go out of their way to, like, act as if words used in publications and news and media are, like, the terms that scientists would have used. It's so fucking stupid because the media always stretches scientific discoveries. They always do. Every news outlet always stretches it to make it sound more interesting. And for him to go and act as if this is what scientists were saying, even though it's things that were only said in, like, news outlets, is just beyond misleading.
I mean, one can look up the dictionary definition of whale and find the following. Whale, noun, a very large marine mammal with a streamlined hairless body, a horizontal tail fin, and a blowhole on top of the head for breathing.
Once again, nobody was saying it was a whale. At least no active scientist. People were saying it was an ancestor of whales. Fucking hell.
And yet, there was never any indication of any of these features. Marine dwelling, hairless, tail fin, blowhole for breathing.
Because it had yet to evolve in those directions.
Etc., found from the earliest days in 1983 all the way to 2001, while Pachycetus was being researched. However, in schoolrooms, colleges and universities, museums, zoos, or aquariums, as well as in textbooks, online articles, and peer-reviewed journals, such claims are greeted with serious nods of acceptance and thought of as scientifically legitimate. Charts showing wolf-like land animals whose feet morph into webbed and then flipper-like feet, which then gradually lose their hind limbs and grow fins and flukes, while their nostrils shift from the front to the top of their heads, are now seen as proof positive of the once missing links between land animals and whales. And they...
Yeah, because it's backed up by peer-reviewed research, you dumbass motherfucker.
They are taught and illustrated using a lineage of supposed transitional creatures, beginning with Pachycetus, all the way to true whales we see today.
Yeah, because we've found more fossils of the in-between.
Which seems similar to how the old and now totally debunked horse evolution series found its way into many other publications and textbooks for over 150 years. You see, evolutionists...
And where was that debunked? Was horse evolution actually debunked? No, the evolution of horses has not been debunked. However, the evolutionary history of horses is complex and branching rather than a straight line. So pretty much, people took something similar to, what was it? Was it the March of Mankind or something like that? The March of Humanity mural? Is that it? No, that's not it. March of Mankind. Visual depiction of evolution. Yeah, this. Basically, people saw this for horses and took it too literally. Because this is not an accurate representation of how horse or human evolution works. Or evolution at all. This is not a good depiction of how evolution works at all. In fact, it's actively taught in biology classes how much harm this has caused for the actual understanding of evolution. So basically, that was debunked, not horse evolution, which is a very, very important detail that he left out.
Textbooks for over 150 years. You see, evolutionists constantly need new proofs to prop up their worldview. So while the horse evolution series was falling off the back end of the evolutionary conveyor belt, the whale fossil series was just being assembled and placed at the front of it. And evolutionists now show diagrams to students with all sorts of supposed intermediate.
The idea of this being a replacement for for horse evolution is really fucking stupid. Because it's not. Horse evolution still is a thing. It may not be taught as the main example of how evolution works anymore, but that's not because it was debunked. It's just because whale evolution just so happens to be a better way of showcasing it.
Between Pachycetus and true whales to make the evidence seem truly robust. And yet, just like Pachycetus, when closely examined, each and every one of these supposed missing links absolutely fails to qualify as a true transitional form of...
Alright, I got a question for you. Oh, what was your name again? What was your name? Calvin Smith. I got a question for you, Calvin Smith. Why, if evolution isn't a thing, why do we see that certain animals that happen to go in a direct line of features that show a direct line of features changing in a very specific way, why do we only find... Let me make this question simpler. Why do we not find... let's see. Let's do... earliest... No. Latest human ancestor. Homo heidelbergensis. Homo heidelbergensis. Why do we see Homo heidelbergensis between these years, specifically, only these years, and then we never find first whatever. Why do we only find Homo heidelbergensis in these years? And we don't find literally every other evolutionary step of humans. If all of them are distinct animals that are not evolved from one another, why do we not find all of them in the same time period? And you can't go and say because the dates are wrong, because then you'd have to prove that the dates are wrong. So give me an actual reason, backed by proof, why we don't find all of the supposed, according to you, human, the word supposed according to you, because you guys really like to use that word. Why do we never find all of these supposed steps of human evolution in distinct layers? Why do we always find them in distinct layers, huh? Why? Why don't we find all of these clearly, according to you, distinct animals? Why don't we find them all in the same layers? Huh? If the giant-ass flood happened, why don't we see all of these supposed human ancestors in the same layer along with the flood? If they all went extinct because of the flood, why don't we see them all dead in the same layer? Why don't we see that? Huh? I will be awaiting your response, but something tells me it won't come because you're fucking cowards. And you don't actually know how any of this shit works. Anyways, this is where I'm leaving off the video. They saw my comment. They saw my comment saying that they should respond to one of my videos. I'm waiting. I'm waiting, Answers in Genesis.